He's the guy following the guy. And he's never not going to be that.
Greetings and salutations, and welcome to the Odd Coaches Podcast, the global authority on coaching leadership, where coaching wisdom meets real talk. I am your host, Dr. Keith Adams, and on today's Throwdown Thursday edition, in segment 1, the loyalty test, we're going to find out how committed colleges are to their football coaches. In segment 2, the NABC responds to the 5-for-5 eligibility proposal, and we also discuss the women's college basketball transfer portal. And in segment 3, Arkansas discontinues their tennis programs. I'm a little upset about that. We'll talk about that. And we'll also have a discussion on academic readiness and the infrastructure of hope, as we have reflections from the SAC Symposium on the campus of Howard University. With us today is our favorite administrator, Robert Abney, and our basketball correspondent, Danny Thompson. And let's just get started with this. Robert, Alabama has officially moved past the kind of interim feel in terms of post-Nick Saban life, and they granted Kalen DeBoer a 7-year extension through 2033, and the deal features a $12.5 million annual salary, which places him in a tie for fourth among the highest paid coaches in the country. He finished last season with an 11-4 record, with a signature win at Oklahoma and a college football playoff quarterfinal. He's 20-8 over his 2 seasons, 12-4 in the SEC. What are you thinking about Alabama saying we're all in on Kalen DeBoer?
You know, first of all, the fan base is less than thrilled, which, okay. I mean, he did lose 4 games, right? He won 11, but he did lose 4 games. And that's not recent vintage Alabama-ish, right? The fact of the matter is this. You can do whatever you want with Kalen DeBoer. You can pay him any amount of money you want. The administration can say whatever they want. The fact of the matter is this. He's the guy following the guy. And he's never not going to be that. Mm-hmm. He's going to be compared to Nick Saban. Now, say he builds, Alabama back up into what it was with Saban and more. Say he runs off 4 national title game appearances in a row and wins 3 in 4 years. Maybe that stops. Okay. That's not going to happen. I don't see that happening. I don't know if that's going to happen in this day and age of portal being what it is. I don't think that's going to happen at all until we get some clarity about what the portal looks like and eligibility and all that kind of stuff. We're not going to see any of that. But it's are you keeping other people away from him? Sure. Did you really want to do that?
Yes, because some of the Alabama fans wanted him to go to Michigan, and it's crazy. But we're going to go from the SEC to the ACC, Robert. And Jeff Brohm officially signed an 8-year extension through 2033, worth an average of $8.1 million at his home school of Louisville, and that doesn't sound like a discount. So in terms of ACC coaching, he becomes the 6th highest paid coach in the ACC, joining Dabo Swinney, Bill Belichick, Brent Lashley, Mike Norvell, and Mario Cristobal. The contract features a unique escalator clause. So rather than one-time bonuses, reaching the college football playoff, or should I say the CFP, permanently raises his base salary. So if he has an appearance, he gets a permanent $500,000 for an appearance. If he makes it to the quarterfinals, he gets an extra $1 million added to his annual base salary. And if he wins the national championship, that is worth $2 million. He is 28-12 through his 3 seasons, including Louisville's first ever ACC championship game appearance in 2023. I didn't even know they made it to the championship. What are you thinking about Louisville saying, here's money for Jeff Brohm?
Well, programs, colleges are feeling like they have to lock these guys up if they want to have any kind of stability at all, because a big job comes open and all these names pop up from, I mean, let's be honest, nobody, when you talk about college football, nobody's like, oh yeah, Louisville. Nobody does that, right? So that's going to be a program that top echelon programs would poach a coach from, right? And they're trying to, obviously they are trying to keep that from happening. It's a little bit easier with Brohm, I think, because he is a Louisville guy. I think he would prefer to stay. That being said, you better meet the market, because I mean, everybody's got a price, so you'd better meet the market. I think what they did, I mean, another thing that they did on top of raising his salary is they added to the salary pool for assistants, and that will help immensely, as well. I think it's interesting that he's the 6th highest paid coach in the ACC, and I would bet that 3 of those 6 are not long for their current job.
I would agree with you. And finally, Robert, we're going to go to the Big Ten. The seat is hot in Madison, Wisconsin, and Luke Fickell even knows it himself. So Luke Fickell came in with a 17-21 overall record at Wisconsin, but the trend is concerning because he is 9-15 over the last 2 seasons. Wisconsin is facing its first back-to-back losing seasons since 1991 and 1992, the very start of the Barry Alvarez era. There is a no rollover gesture, so you don't have to worry about recruiting because you're hitting the portal, but in a rare move for a coach with a deal through 2032, Fickell requested that his contract not receive its customary 1-year extension past February, effectively betting his own salary and his own ability to turn things around. You also have administrative turmoil. He lost his biggest allies in a massive leadership flux. AD Chris McIntosh, who hired him, left to go work at the Big Ten front office. You got Chancellor Jennifer Nukin leaving for Columbia. Good move. And the UW systems president, Jay Rothman, was recently fired. Fickell is currently in lockstep with interim AD Marcus Sedberry, but a permanent hire can change everything. So with your admin hat on, what are you thinking about Luke this year, buddy?
Luke better win 9 games. That's what I'm thinking. He better win 9 games, including a bowl game. Otherwise, he may be gone anyway, because I mean, as we know, when ADs come in, especially those marquee jobs, they tend to want to have their guy. And he's not going to be the new AD's guy because another AD hired him. So we know that. He is good, but he's got to figure it out. He's got to figure out how he's going to win 9 games. Otherwise, he's not going to have a job. I did not realize, I couldn't remember the last time Wisconsin was not good. 91, 92, that's when Barry Alvarez was hired. That was, I did not realize it had been that long.
Yeah. Now, Danny, I got to ask you this as we bring you in, specifically with Wisconsin. Luke Fickell admitted that he tried to build Wisconsin the traditional way and failed. Can a program like Wisconsin, in your opinion, build on developmental and trench play, or do they have to go portal heavy? It's just challenging. And as somebody who is working at developing a program from the ground up, what do you think about Luke Fickell saying, man, I can't do it the traditional way anymore?
I'm not surprised at this point because, looking at it from a basketball perspective, look at what Pitino said. He's not recruiting high school players anymore. And it's led to them having some of the best success they've had in years. Let's be real. So I think the traditional way, and I don't like saying this as a guy who, misses the days of recruiting high school players to come play in college ball. Those days are over. Most programs nowadays expect win now and expect some experience to come into the program. Do I think Wisconsin can do it? Probably not, because you're in a conference where you ain't going to expect much success, especially when your last 2 years, mind you, you mentioned an overall record. He's 9-15. The man is 5-13 in Big Ten play, doing it the traditional way. Wow. So it's going to be hard for him to do it in the Big Ten, especially with football. When you got most players, when they transfer, they're going to want to go to your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Penn States, Oregon now, USC. It is going to be too hard for Wisconsin to see that level of success with the way schools are building their programs now. Now, for them to try to start that trend, they're a little bit behind the 8 ball in this scenario.
Yeah. And the fact that this is what we're talking about in April, yeah, that's a lot of time to build up that snowball.
Well, and let's look at their schedule. They get Notre Dame in Lambeau. They are at Penn State. They get USC at home. They are at Iowa. They do not play Indiana. They do not play Michigan. They do not play Ohio State. So he can save his job. He can win 10 games if he's got the right guys. The schedule sets up for him to win 10 games if he's got the right guys. That's the key, though. Can you find them, and B, can you get them on campus?
And that's where he's going to struggle with, because if you go and look at the football transfer portal right now, and a lot of guys are not looking to go to Wisconsin. Like I pulled up the transfer portal right now, and the first 3 things that pop up are 3 separate players: a receiver, a safety, and an inside lineman. 2 of them are going to Mississippi State. 1's going to Baylor. No one is checking for Wisconsin at this moment when it comes to, transfer portal and what you're looking to do once you get there. Because even if you pull up Wisconsin to see what their success rate is right now, as far as the transfer portal right now, they lost more than what's coming in. They got an Eli Adams. He's the receiver coming from Louisville. That's it. And then at the same time, an inside lineman, another receiver, and a punter.
Yeah. All right. Well, good luck to Luke, and rent don't own. And with that, in segment 2, we're going to talk about the NABC and their thoughts on the 5-for-5 rule that may come in next week. And we'll also talk about the women's college basketball transfer portal. We'll be right back on the Odd Coaches Podcast.
Today's student athletes face pro-level challenges without pro-level support. The CKA SAVE project is here to change that. For 16 plus years, Dr. Keith Adams and his team have provided comprehensive academic and athletic support from middle school through post-graduation transitions. NIL guidance, transfer portal navigation, academic coaching, career planning, they've got it covered. The CKA Save Project. When your future is on the line, experience matters. Learn more at www.ckasaveproject.org.
All right, welcome back to the Hot Coaches Podcast in segment 2. We're going to talk about the 5-for-5 fast track. And this may cause roster chaos, and the NABC wants to have their say. So NCAA President Charlie Baker is pushing a 5-for-5 eligibility model, which means athletes would receive 5 years of eligibility to be used within a 5-year window, starting at high school graduation or 19. This move aligns with the recent executive order and aims to eliminate the legal headaches caused by red shirts, medical waivers, and professional players entering the college system late. The timeline we're looking at, the Division I cabinet may vote in the month of May, with implementation as early as the month of June. NABC Executive Director Craig Robinson labels coaches' involvement as, quote, non-negotiable. While coaches support the age-based model in theory, the rapid implementation threatens to upend rosters that are already finalized for the 2026-2027 season. Danny, is somebody who is now studying these things on a regular basis, going to hold my administrator to the end of this one. What are you thinking about the NABC's response to the 5-for-5?
I get where they're coming from because they're already starting to do their roster management as we speak. Season's already over. They've already gone out and started recruiting. Now you have to find a way to retain those guys who are already here and bring in new guys to help build your program up. Look, as a guy who did 5 years because of a medical red shirt, I get where coaches are coming from because you want to make sure you maintain your program. But again, as a player, this just seems like a way to reel in a player trying to look for something better for himself. And at some point, the NCAA has to realize that you need to find a way to make it so that the players can still do what they have to do. As a coach, I mean, I'm good with the 5-for-5 fast track. I'm good with, making sure guys stay, and if they want to leave after a year, that's fine. But if they leave after another year, it's going to cost them. I get all that. Because there's a lot of player moving to the point where we're sitting there joking about a 28-year-old with children playing college basketball. So it's still something that they got to get used to. But at the same time, I think it's a step in the right direction. I don't think coaches necessarily don't need to be involved in this type of communication. But it's something for them to think about because, again, coaches are so deeply involved in building their rosters up. They want to make sure that the guys they bring in are going to stay for the long haul, or they're going to go after a year or so.
All right. So, Robert, I'm coming to you now with your admin hat on. This is pretty quick. We're going to vote in May and implement in June. With your experience implementing things that have been brought from the higher-ups, what is your thought on the NABC's response?
Well, in terms of the NCAA trying to fast-track this, that's going to go well. That is not going to go well. I understand the coaches wanting, having some concerns about rosters already being finalized for the upcoming season. If the NCAA, the only way the NCAA can effectively implement this and keep themselves out of the courtroom is to say this applies to all incoming freshmen at the Division I level in the 26-27 school year. That's the only way that it's going to keep them out of trouble. Because if you try to
Retroactively.
put this in place for somebody who is eligibility wise a junior in their 4th year at their 3rd school. You know, it's not a matter of if someone's going to sue the NCAA over this if it passes. It's just a matter of when. And the answer is probably almost immediately, because I don't have any faith in the NCAA to have enough wisdom to say, okay, we're going to start this with incoming freshmen and we're going to roll from there. You know, well, what do you do about guys who come, who come from D2 and go, and go through the portal to a D1 school? That's their transfer, right? What do you do about, international guys who come in and they're 22 years old? Well, if they're 22, how many years do they have? You're saying that their 5 years starts at 19. 19 plus 5 is 24. He's got 2 years of eligibility. How do you handle medical red shirts? Well, you've got 5 for 5. And had they done this 10 years ago, 15 years ago, we may not be seeing a lot of the nonsense that we see now. However, no one thought of that. Well, if they thought of that, no one was willing to do anything about it at that time.
They just wanted bagel on a cream cheese. They just wanted cream cheese on a bagel.
Yeah. And I mean, is there and I guarantee you there are unintended consequences that I haven't thought of, that y'all haven't thought of, that people who support this have not thought of. If a guy tears his right ACL his 1st year and his left ACL his 2nd year and is basically done, what does that do? I mean, there's all this stuff.
Yeah.
In theory, I like it. It would make portal issues a lot easier if it was just NCAA wide. This is how we're doing it. It would make the portal issues, it would make them way more manageable. There's too much money involved right now. I don't see it. I don't see it being successful.
Hard caps are tough to deal with, and we're in education, and hard caps are tough. All right, Danny, I'm going to come back to you. We've got a lot of transfer portal shakeups in women's college basketball. I have one particular transfer that I'm going to pay attention to that I'll mention shortly, but is there any particular transfer situation that caught your eye?
2. The first one is obvious. Audi Chris going to Oklahoma State. Why? You transfer within the conference, but you go from one team to another rebuilding team. I don't know how that's going to work. Oklahoma State went and picked up Liv McGill. Okay. She was a talented guard coming out of Florida. So you have a good 1-2 punch. What else after that? So we're going to see how well Oklahoma State will do with that. The one that caught my eye, though, is Virginia keeping Kimora Johnson after the coach was fired. That was big as far as camaraderie and a sort of consistency within the team, keeping her instead of losing her to the transfer portal. I think that was tremendous for the Cavaliers, especially building off of what they did this past season. So those are the 2 transfers that really caught my eye, especially Kimora Johnson staying at Virginia.
Robert, any transfer that has caught your eye? Because I got one, and I'm trying to make sure I don't go crazy with it. But what do you think, sir?
Well, I mean, Audi Crooks to Oklahoma State is interesting. I don't think transferring is going to cure her defensive woes. I mean, the question for her this year and going forward into the WNBA is going to be, can you guard anybody? And thus far in her career, she has shown that if she's playing anybody athletic, she can't guard them. She just can't move. And she has to find a way to address that one way or another. Transfer I'm personally interested in, there's a girl named Bella Hines who played at LSU, got piled up behind all their guards. Nice little player going to TCU. She's from Albuquerque. You know, I saw her growing up. She is a very good player. Dad can be a little problematic, or at least he was as she was growing up. Hopefully you get to the D1 level, we get rid of some of that. Princeton is losing their best player. She is going to Notre Dame. So she's a quality player. There was some eligibility issue in the Ivy League. The Ivy League is the Ivy League. And they don't have red shirts. They don't nominally have athletic scholarships. There are ways around that, but they don't nominally have athletic scholarships. And, you know, is the Ivy League going to change to address those concerns? I would submit that they are not, because they're the Ivy League and they do whatever they want, because they don't really need NIL money when you have, you know, when you're sitting on endowments of multiple billions of dollars, there's no reason to worry about NIL money. But I don't see them doing anything different. And it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, you have UCLA, who lost all their players, the 5 first-round picks in the draft. You have Tennessee, who coach issues. All of these schools that have essentially brand new rosters. I mean, Oklahoma State has 9 new players. How are they going to play together? How long is it going to take them to figure it out? Will they figure it out? Will we see coaches get fired in mid-season because they brought the wrong blend of players in? All of that will be very interesting to see.
Yeah, for me, Kyomi McMiller is in the transfer portal again. Longtime fans of the show know her mom played at Paint Branch High School, where I coached, and our teams, both the men's and women's teams at that school, are extremely close to each other. Kyomi was at the middle school I taught at. I didn't have her as a student, but to be able to see her in the hall, and when you're a teacher and a coach and you see the offspring of somebody you work with, yeah, you're naturally going to spend some extra time with them and try to make sure that they're good. And she's an outstanding player. She's on the Jordan brand. But she went to 2 situations that, in my opinion, had weak coaching staffs. And I don't know if she got everything she could have out of these situations. When she was at Rutgers, there was a suspension. When she was at Penn State, the team just wasn't very good. So what I am hoping, as she is in the transfer portal, is a program like a South Carolina. I would love for her to be under a strong coach. A team like Baylor or something like that. Again, to just have a stronger basketball environment around her. That's what I'm rooting for. But again, notice the phrases I'm using. I'm rooting like heck for her to be in a situation where she can develop as a player, and she can develop as a student, because she's really smart, by the way. I mean, she's brilliant. So again, I'm rooting for her, and that's kind of where I am. So in segment 3, we're going to put our admin hats on. Arkansas dropped their tennis program. We're going to have that conversation. And we're also going to have some reflections from the SAC Symposium, sponsored by the Drake Group Education Fund. We'll be right back on the iCoaches Podcast. Hi, everyone. Dr. Keith Adams here. And for over 30 years, I've dedicated my life to helping student athletes succeed, not just on the fields and the courts, but in the classroom and beyond. And that's why I founded the CKA Save Project. The CKA Save Project understands that finding the balance between academics and athletics is crucial for long-term success. That's why the CKA Save Project offers a range of programs, including personalized consulting, mentorship, and coming in 2027, our innovative Gap Year Basketball Academy designed to assist both young men and women reach their full potential both on and off the court. I'm incredibly excited to announce that the CKA Save Project is now partnering with the Cascade Sports Network. This partnership will allow us the opportunity to amplify our message and reach even more student athletes through the Odd Coaches podcast and other exciting initiatives. Join the CKA Save Project and the Cascade Sports Network as we empower the next generation of student athletes. Visit CKA on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org to learn more. Let's work together to find the balance and help unlock your potential. Welcome back to the Odd Coaches Podcast in segment 3. Man, Arkansas is an SEC program, and they made an announcement this week that paused me. Vice Chancellor and Director of Athletics Hunter Yurachek announced the discontinuation of both the men's and women's tennis program effective at the end of the spring 2026 season. So why are they doing this? The decision is a direct response to the post-house settlement environment, rapidly accelerating costs and the need for financial sustainability in the Power 4 era are forcing departments to reallocate resources. The university currently spends approximately $2.5 million annually on the men's and women's tennis programs, and officials determined that they could not provide the necessary investment to keep the programs competitive in the SEC. So what happens to the athletes? Well, current and incoming student athletes will have their scholarships honored through degree completion if they stay at Arkansas. Athletes get to retain academic, medical, mental health, and nutrition support. And the department will assist any athlete who wishes to enter the transfer portal to find new programs. Arkansas will move forward with 17 sports, 10 women's and 7 men's. Fundraising was explicitly ruled out as a sustainable solution to save the program. Robert, what are your thoughts about Arkansas's move?
Well, they weren't the first.
And they will not be the last.
Well, they will not be the last. We know Iowa recently cut programs. I think we're going to see more and more schools cut programs like this because, because of the demands of remaining competitive in the larger revenue sports, the Olympics. But I mean, we've known all along that the Olympic sports were going to take a really big hit in the NIL era just because of how resources are being allocated. I think it's interesting, and I think it's correct that Arkansas said fundraising is not a sustainable solution, because it's not, because you're already hitting up your donors to fund your NIL. And I think, we've had the conversation, and the conversation will continue to be had with us and with other people, about how sustainable fundraising for NIL really is. Because at some point, people either are going to say, you know what, I'm tapped out because for any number of reasons, not the least of which is, hey, I've given you $8 million over the past 5 years, and we're still 4th in the SEC. What are we doing here?
Yeah.
So all of that, I mean, it's a sign of the times, really.
Absolutely crazy. So, in our last segment, I'm going to let Danny Thompson lead off. Um, Recently, this past week, the Drake Group Education Fund had the annual Allen Sachs Symposium. And throughout the symposium, there was a number of panels and student athletes got to speak, and just a lot of great things happened. And I wanted to give Danny an opportunity to just kind of share his thoughts on his experience with that as a board member of the CKSA project. Danny, what were your thoughts on the SAC symposium?
I mean, it was a very eye-opening experience. We started to see, especially as a former athlete, we start to understand what goes on behind the scenes that a lot of us athletes have no clue what is going on. So the first thing that came to my mind was it's the comparison between equality and equity. Everyone pushes equality. Equality isn't always the best. For instance, John Cosman, when he was talking about the media and the undervaluation of women's sports, this past season, the NCAA just started doing performance-based incentives for the teams who make the NCAA tournament. Again, fair treatment. The women should receive those incentive bonuses, correct? Am I wrong for saying that? The women only saw 11% of that money. That says a lot to me. And I'm starting with this first because that goes to show you where everything is going to now. Everything's going towards the money portion. And if there's no equitable treatment across the board, then you can go ahead and forget trying to fix all this other stuff, because you have this one that's going to be, it's always going to stick its head around the corner every year. We saw this a couple of years ago with the one player from Oregon who pretty much, filmed everything about the differences between the weight rooms between the women's tournament and the men's tournament during the pandemic tournament, right? That is something that needs to be handled. I haven't even gotten to the portion when we listen to the athletes speak. And City did a tremendous job. One of our interns, she did a tremendous job in speaking at that part of the panel. But the one thing that was brought up during that panel, and it was from a lot of the women athletes on the panel, is there was this unequal balance when it came to revenue. And it's something that is going to drive home, which we were just talking about with the Arkansas tennis programs both being eliminated. It goes back to equality versus equity when it comes to your quote unquote revenue sports and your something that John Cosman said should go away, non-revenue sports, which pretty much are the Olympic sports. We're going to see a lot more of those programs get eliminated if there's no way you can fix the integrity as far as equity goes in your athletic departments. And seeing that being, especially that was one of my main focuses at the SAC Symposium, that really caught my eye. That's been sticking in my head this Thursday. And it's the only thing I can honestly think about, because I remember going to the Mount. I'll go back to my last year. They pour a lot of money into the men's program, and we were not good. Legends is going to be up, but we weren't. Our women's team was much better than we were, but yet when you look around, they don't none of these programs pour the money into a women's program that is performing better than the men's program, but yet the men's program gets the better treatment because there's more investment into it. So I think now, after being at the SAC Symposium, we need to find a way to invest more and make things more equitable for our programs in these colleges, so that way you can start seeing better results as far as players transferring, coming and going, this, that, and the third.
Yeah. Robert, as researchers, this has been our life, and that actually brought us together. as you hear Danny's reflections and understanding a lot of the administrative nuances, what are your thoughts as we attempt to move forward with these crazy changing times?
Well, I think there are a couple of things is that, and I wish I could have been there. That would have been a very that would have been a very enlightening experience, not just to be able to hang out with you guys, meet Sydney, that kind of stuff, but also listen to what other people are saying. And we were talking offline before recording this segment. We were talking about one of the things is that, a lot of people are just mad. They're mad about what's happening. They're mad that they feel like they're not getting theirs. And that's fine. You want to be mad, be mad. The question becomes, what are you going to do about it? If you have these student athletes, and I'm going to use that term, even though I'm not quite sure that that's still where we are anymore, especially at the Division I level, but there's a, what are we doing for these athletes to prepare them for what comes next in their life if they do not move on to the professional level? How are we helping them build up some kind of resume that they can put out there and say, here I am, here's what I bring to the table? Are there even academic expectations anymore? Or is it just you're there to play your sport and whatever academics you can get in are whatever you can get in? And in the end, those student athletes, again, who are not moving on to the next level, what are we doing for them? How are we making sure that when they leave us, they have a piece of paper in their hands that, they have that degree, and they also have some prospects for their next step in terms of their career, whether that's, maybe it is being a professional athlete, but the vast majority of these athletes who have been in athletics their entire life, they're going to stick around athletics one way or the other. They're going to, there's sports management, sport administration, teaching, coaching, recreation program, all of that kind of stuff. Are we doing anything to help them prepare for any of that? Now, CKA Save Project, we're doing things. But what's everybody else doing?
Yeah, and that's a great segue. And in my acceptance speech for the Exceptional Service Award, which I humbly, I'm still honored to get that, we talk about the resume gap, and that's the disconnect between whatever athletic achievement you've done and your ability to articulate your professional value in that boardroom, in that interview. And then the time poverty, something that has bothered me as an educator, where we lower academic expectations to preserve eligibility. And we do not extend to higher level courses or higher level anything. And theory to practice, I believe you can spend 100% of your efforts being a great athlete, and you can spend 100% of your efforts doing professional development, because that has been done. It's just not as articulated as it was in the previous generation. And it's something we try to articulate. So as Robert said, you could be mad, but here's what we're doing. We're developing this CKA VIP program. Our virtual internship program provides professional reps. Everybody wants you to have experience, but nobody wants to give you experience. And to have people like Sydney Seabrooks and Dagny Johnson, who are freshmen in college, they can be as talented as they want to be, and they are. But they're still 18, 19 years old. And who's intentionally teaching them how to articulate, how to dress, how to walk a room, shake hands, and do those things? We're intentionally doing that. We're doing and conducting independent research on student athlete motivation post-house, post-NIL, post-transfer portal, because at some point we've got to stop exhausting eligibility and get a degree. We're looking at student-athletes' thoughts on collective bargaining because people are fighting in rooms about should they be employers or not, but have we even asked them, do they know what this means? And then for me, we're the Odd Coaches Podcast. What can we do to talk to coaches? Because we didn't sign up for this stuff. And the coaches that I've talked to are tired and they're talented and they're leaving in droves. And the people who are replacing them aren't as talented. So there's still a gap. And shows like this, the Odd Coaches Podcast, where we emphasize conversation over confrontation, these conversations have to take place. So as I close this week, and I thank our Cavalcade of Stars for their work, this is a special time for us. CKA's birthday was this past week. April 24th, 2009 was when we had our 501c3 designation. And over the last month and going into next month, we have been where we're supposed to be. We're at the Final Four having these conversations. We're at the SAC Symposium having these conversations. And next month, we'll be in Eugene, Oregon at the Black Student Athlete Summit, where Roland Hairston III, who is our chief project manager for our CKA VIP program, will be with me as I present Beyond the Scholarship, empowering student athletes to not just get in, but get out of college. So our people are at the forefront of the national conversation, and we will continue to work to empower student athletes and the people who work with them through educational and professional development as we, try to find a better balance between academic and athletic success. So on behalf of our Cavalcade of Stars, I'm Dr. Keith Adams saying thank you for listening and or watching the Odd Coaches Podcast, also seen on the Cascade Sports Network, and we will see you on the sidelines. Until next time, take care.
We hope you enjoyed today's show. The Odd Coaches Podcast drops new episodes every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. Make sure you subscribe to the Odd Coaches Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Follow the Odd Coaches Podcast on the X platform at Odd Coaches. Follow Dr. Keith Adams and the CKA Save Project on social media at CKA Save Project. For more information about the CKA Save Project, visit them on the web at www.ckasaveproject.org. See you next time on the Odd Coaches Podcast.